In the inventory of a private archive in northern Italy, there is a manuscript dated 1357 that does not appear damaged, burned, or incomplete in the usual sense. The pages are intact. The binding is original. The ink has faded evenly, yet entire sections stop mid-thought. Sentences trail off without conclusion. Diagrams end without labels. Feels less like a lost text and more like one that was never meant to be finished. The accepted explanation is simple. Medieval manuscripts were often collaborative. Some were abandoned. Others were copied incorrectly or left incomplete due to illness, war, or funding. Scholars describe this text as a regional chronicle with architectural marginalia added by later hands. That explanation accounts for the mixed handwriting styles. It accounts for the uneven pacing. But it does not account for the consistency of the measurements that appear across different sections of the manuscript. Several pages contain diagrams of interior spaces. The drawings are not ornate. They are technical, straight lines, repeated angles, measurements written in the margins using a unit system consistent with the mid-14th century. The spaces depicted are large, doorways exceeding 10 feet, ceilings rising higher than most known medieval civic structures. These are not churches. They are labeled as halls, storehouses, and transit corridors. The scale feels deliberate rather than symbolic. Human figures appear beside these structures. They are not uniform. Some match the proportions typical of medieval illustration. Others are taller, broader, drawn with longer limb ratios. There is no commentary explaining the difference. No emphasis. No distinction. The figures coexist on the page as if the variation required no explanation. Once this inconsistency is noticed, it becomes harder to ignore similar features elsewhere. In several European cities, public buildings from later centuries contain doorways that appear partially sealed from below. Staircases begin abruptly several steps above floor level. Windows sit higher than necessary for light or ventilation. These features are usually explained as renovations, rising street levels, or aesthetic changes. But the manuscript depicts these proportions before any such modifications were recorded. Municipal records from the late 1300s mention maintenance work on structures that no longer appear in city plans. The language is vague. Phrases like upper access and interior passage appear without accompanying diagrams. In a few cases, the names of these spaces match labels written in the margins of the 1357 manuscript. The records do not describe construction. They assume the reader already knows what exists. Maps from the mid-14th century show dense urban layouts with internal courtyards and subsurface extensions. Later versions of the same maps simplify these areas. Entire internal zones disappear between editions. The cartographers remain the same. Their notes mention updates, not removals. The changes are not explained. Around the late 1370s, a shift becomes visible in the archives. Building descriptions lose specificity. Measurements are replaced with general terms. Structures are described by function alone. Words like hall and store remain, but dimensions vanish. The manuscript mirrors this shift. Its later pages contain fewer diagrams. The margins grow quieter. The final entries stop midline. What kind of event causes records to become less detailed instead of more? Fires, wars, and disasters usually increase documentation. They generate claims, inventories, and rebuilding plans. Here, the opposite occurs. The language narrows. The descriptions thin. The record grows cautious. The manuscript never explains what changed. It does not announce an ending. There is no warning or conclusion. The final page shows a partially drawn interior space with measurements written on one side only. The opposite margin is blank. It feels paused rather than finished. There is another anomaly. The manuscript references spaces beneath civic buildings using terms that do not align with known medieval architectural vocabulary. The words are not Latinized technical terms. They are practical, descriptive, as if naming features that were commonly understood at the time but later forgotten. No glossary explains them. Later records avoid the terms entirely. In the 15th century, references to large internal civic spaces decline across multiple regions. New buildings are described as improvements, yet their dimensions are smaller. Doorways narrow, ceiling heights drop. The change is gradual in stone, but abrupt in writing. The manuscript sits directly at the boundary between these two styles of documentation. If the drawings were purely symbolic, their measurements would not align so closely with later structures. If the scale were exaggerated, it would vary. Instead, it repeats. The proportions remain consistent across pages drawn by different hands. That consistency suggests observation rather than imagination. The manuscript does not accuse anyone. It does not argue. It does not suggest suppression. It simply records a world that appears slightly out of alignment with what later documents describe. Then it stops. Today, the manuscript is catalogued but rarely studied in depth. When it is mentioned, attention focuses on its artistic qualities. The diagrams are treated as curiosities. The measurements are often ignored. The incomplete sections are attributed to chance. But chance does not usually repeat across cities, maps, and archives in the same narrow window of time. It does not cause language to retreat. It does not erase specific types of detail while preserving others. The manuscript does not expose a hidden reality outright. It hints at one and then falls silent. Like the buildings it depicts, it feels altered rather than destroyed. Something was present. Something was recorded, and then the record changed. If this felt unfinished, that may be the point. If you want to remain part of the investigation, you can quietly like, comment, or subscribe, and see what else remains unresolved.